Welcome to the WCB webinar series on workplace first aid regulations, presented by the Workers' Compensation Board of PEI. This video covers a summary of the first aid training requirements found within the workplace first aid regulations. WCB has created a resource for workplaces called Guide to Workplace First Aid Regulations. This is your toolkit to determining the first aid requirements for your workplace. It can be accessed on our website at wcb.pe.ca. The guide is available as a PDF, which you can view, download, or print. It is based on the OHS general regulations pertaining to first aid. You can also download our app from the App Store or Google Play to find the guide and additional information on first aid for PEI workplaces. First aid training. According to the Occupational Health and Safety General Regulations, an organization or person can provide first aid training if they are St. John Ambulance, Canadian Red Cross Society, approved by another jurisdiction in Canada, or approved by the Occupational Health and Safety Director. If you need to find someone in PEI to do first aid training, one of your options is to view a list of service providers, which can be found on our website. Go to wcb.pe.ca and you'll see our main webpage that looks like this. Simply type in service providers in the search bar at the top of our website. Find the page and open the PDF that lists service providers across the province. And just like all the other aspects of first aid, a first aid risk assessment will be necessary to determine the level of training your workplace will need. If your risk assessment results show that the work conducted at your workplace is low risk only, then you will need to ensure that you have workers trained in emergency level training. In accordance with the regulations, this level of training will require 6.5 hours of instruction. If your risk assessment results show that the work conducted involves work other than low risk work, or a combination of many risk levels, then you will need either emergency, standard, or advanced level training. If you have 2 to 19 workers per shift, emergency level training is required, which again requires 6.5 hours of instruction for the training course. If you have 20 to 99 workers per shift, standard level training will be required. And this type of training entails 13 hours of instruction according to the regulations. And lastly, if your workplace involves work other than low risk work and has 100 or more workers per shift, then there is a requirement to have workers trained in advanced level training. This level of training involves 35 hours of instruction. Determining how many workers should receive training will differ from workplace to workplace and should be reflected in the results of your first aid risk assessment. So what about workers who work alone? Working alone means the worker is the only worker of the employer at that workplace, and the worker is working in circumstances where assistance is not readily available to the worker in the event of injury, illness, or an emergency. Based on the risk identified to a worker who is working alone, it may be reasonable for that worker to hold a valid emergency first aid certificate. If you have questions, you can reach out to us either by email or phone, and we will be happy to assist you. And you can also watch our other videos to further help you understand the requirements in the first aid legislation.